You've got to tell us.
Rupees.
Yes, sorry I had to pop out, but I've been welding all day and it's quite hot down here at the moment. And I've been chugging water like nothing else, and I've just had the biggest pee ever. It was huge. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Nice.
And I could just tell you there's nothing wrong with prostate.
You're going to keep that in the podcast.
There's those deep and meaningful
you
conversations.
always pick out our bits, and now we can, I want to edit this one and put that one first.
Welcome to the Full Stop Podcast with Berenlee Smith from Walking Our Shoes, Sarah Lawrence from After the Storm, and me, Michael Hughes from Married and Childless. Now, welcome to our alternative King and Queen speech. It's our way of wrapping up the year and giving hope to those that find this time of year difficult. Our guests are our great friend Andy Harrod, World Childless Week founder, the gorgeous Stephanie Phillips, and a fellow Aussie, the delightful Sarah Roberts from the Empty Cradle. And we have a special message from our gracious stateswoman, Jodie Day. Sarah Roberts says, the podcast is like a group of friends having a drink at the pub. And I think we were there till closing. This is a long one, but we think you'll understand why. Today we have Andy Harrod, our regular guest, Andy Harrod, and another Aussie, Sarah Roberts, and the gorgeous Stephanie Phillips.
Yay! It's a highlight in a really, really, really frustrating and difficult year. I don't think we can start this podcast episode without kind of... I was thinking this morning that there was something I read on Twitter, and it was about words that go into our lexicon. So I don't know about you guys, but this time last year, I don't think I'd ever heard of the word COVID-19. Or I didn't really mention the word pandemic at any regular point in my daily life. When we recorded this, so it's odd sitting here and thinking about how 2020 has been. Really, really strange year. We can't sort of not mention it because it's affected the podcast and it's affected everybody, and I'm sure it's affected all of our listeners as well. And it affected our birthday party, didn't it?
Yeah. I was looking forward to that as well. I had it planned. As one of my events during the year was to come to London and get to see you guys again, because it feels like such a long time. But what I would say is the one good thing, or bizarrely weird good thing of COVID, is we can still meet like this.
Yeah.
And like you say, we're across the world in different places, but we can still meet. And I think that's the one thing. Zoom, everybody knows Zoom now. Even though we all probably knew it before, everybody knows what Zoom, and some people have they're exhausted of hearing the word Zoom.
That's true. It's another word, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives us that freedom to still connect, and that's incredibly important.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I was thinking about this in terms of my business and how I've been to more events in the pandemic than I did before it, because I can simply sit here and do that. I miss people, but I miss talking to people in person, and that physical contact of just giving somebody a hug is really, really tough. But actually connecting with people, I've probably connected more than I did before. Yeah, interesting. Highlight. It's one of those things, isn't it? I suppose that you have to take those small crumbs of comfort, I think. But yeah, I think we were so looking forward to meeting up and actually getting some proper kind of, actually just getting some photographs of the three of us in the same room, and Sarah to actually meet Michael in person for the first time, because we haven't met each other in person yet.
No, that's the weirdest thing, isn't it? Meeting somebody but not having met somebody. Yeah, that's gonna be weird. But I suppose for me it's gonna be, Zoom's great. I am a bit zoomed out, but I was sort of talking about yesterday, I met up with friends on Zoom. And it's going to be weird going back to seeing people in person where you're not talking one at a time. You're going to be able to have synchronous conversations going on in a group of people rather than we all talk one at a time. That's something I'm looking forward to. But yeah, it's been a bizarre year. You're trying hard not to focus on the shitness of it all, really, isn't it? And trying to pull out the positives, but I think you have to dig a bit deeper.
Yeah, I think so. It's I think when we looked at way back in, when was it, April or May, and we were looking at how we were going to reposition the podcast and looking at all the episodes and all the things that we had planned and how much that's changed. Because we do, the listeners may not know this, but we do have a plan. we have a very busy Trello board, and we mark on there all the episodes, and we mark out what we're doing and look for guests, and we put everyone that emails us about wanting to be a guest goes into our magic Trello board, and we have to work through things. So we had a plan for the year, the birthday party, and then all the things that we were going to be doing, and we just had to change the whole thing round in order to accommodate the world really around us. And it's been a very rapidly changing world, but equally at the same time we've covered more than I think we probably ever anticipated that we would do. And I'm thinking of some of the episodes that we had with Yvonne around Black Lives Matter, which was an incredible episode, probably my favourite one I think that we've done in terms of learning about everything. And of course with Victoria and Mariel as well. So we've done an awful lot that we didn't expect to do. And tapping with Rosalind as well. That was good too. We've covered more than probably we thought we did. So we've always been learning. I think there's been the opportunity, perhaps the space to learn a bit more as well, without doing that thing that they do on LinkedIn, which I've seen a lot, my amazing ace morning, when someone kind of gets up and they've kind of conquered the world by 9 o'clock or something like that. We
just, I'll piss off.
Oh yeah. This is what I do in my amazing power morning. And all those things, and there's weird kind of other words that have popped up all about around kind of what people are achieving, and I can't remember any now, but I've seen a few of them around, and you just think, oh, for God's sake, stop making up words. Although I think we're led by people that make up some interesting words, but there you go. Move on. Someone save me before I start ranting.
So Steph, what was it like doing World Childless Week this year? Because obviously that would have been totally different.
To be honest, for me, I don't think it was. Because last year I wasn't here because of being ill, but it was brilliant to get back into it this year and to see that there were even more new faces coming forward. And the people, what I got a really good sense of this year was people saying, when I first did World Childless Week in 2017, I was anonymous. And there are a lot more people this year going, I want my name on it, not just my first name, but my surname. I'm happy to be out there. And one of the things I said was that perhaps we look backwards when we're healing, because we look at what we've done rather than where we're going. And people have actually been saying that to me now, and it's like really good to see it coming that full circle. They've gone from that embarrassed, shy state of wanting to be, just hid away, to saying, no, I'm out there, I'm childless, I'm proud to be there, I am me, I'm owning it, as Michael would say, and that's been great. And as I say, it's all done through emails and stuff, so the communication is still there and really strong and building, and you get people come back that I think, I know that name, I know that person, and it sounds bizarre, but I try my best to not take in the information too much, because if people want to be anonymous, I sort of let that slip through my mind as well, so I don't automatically remember names to articles. But then you sort of get people coming back and you can tell that they've changed in a really good, positive way. And when, like you say, World Childless Week, I actually thought, should it go ahead this year? Because of a pandemic, because of COVID, is it right to concentrate on just us when there's so much else going on in the world? And then I thought, hang on a minute, we hide away so often. Why shouldn't we be out there and out front? Because nobody else is going, I'm not here anymore. Everybody else is still shouting and talking about what's important to them, particularly parents during COVID. That's obviously seen a huge increase everywhere you look. And I thought, no, damn right, we need to be here. We need to actually say we're here. And to include the one day as well, to sort of say how you've coped as a childless person during a pandemic of being locked away, I think was really important, because so many people felt like parents had a reason to be stressed and tired, the classic tired, and every other negative reason for having children, but they automatically assumed we were living it up and having champagne for breakfast and sleeping in late. And I'm not saying we weren't. Hey, some of us anyway. I don't like champagne. But it meant that we had so, for those of you who can't see, I can see Berenice going, me neither, it's making me giggle, which is what, again, we're all about in this community, is communicating, sometimes silently, but together, and we're united. But yeah, it gave, World Childless Week gave people the chance to say how they felt over this summer. And that's what we need to do. Like the podcast, we give people the choice. You were saying you did a couple of sessions you didn't see coming, but how amazing were those sessions and enlightening to all of us to hear. And we needed that, and we still need that. And I think, yes, again, there's so many negatives about what's happened this year, but the positives are we're rediscovering new elements of us and investigating in these areas that we didn't know within us or around us or surrounding us or within others. So again, we're embracing communication in a different way. And like I said, World Childless Week is one way that we do it, but there are so many others that, you know, we can explore as well.
Do you think that we are, as a community, perhaps almost in a better place because of things like World Childless Week? And again, a question perhaps also to you, Andy, and to Sarah as well, that the work that you're doing, because we are we often as a community find it difficult to communicate, that when we're given that space, perhaps because of the pandemic, because of World Childless Week, because of the Empty Cradle, because of the work that you're doing as well, Andy, that actually we sometimes have that hidden strength somewhere.
I think we do. We just don't realise it's there. We don't realise that when we're posting something anonymously, that we're scared, and that you sort of say, please don't put my name up, please don't. And you know, and somebody writes to me 3 times, said, please make sure my name is not on there. They don't realise how strong they are just to put their pen to paper. It's a hidden strength, but we've all got it. We just don't know it.
So we've always said about the podcast that even if you just listen to 1 minute, go on the website. You know, it's the same as, you know, I mean, we've talked about it with World Childless Week as well, that just literally just going into the website or just reading something is a contribution that means so much to us on the podcast, to you, to all of us in the community who do these different things. But I think it's also a demonstration of that hidden strength that our community has, that perhaps we've had to dig a bit deeper to find in this year, that maybe it's just a different way of reframing the situation that we're in. I lack Sarah's wise words on counselling here, so I'm sure Sarah's got a better way of phrasing all of this, but it's just finding that inner something that we have, that perhaps maybe actually it's something I thought way back in March when we were under the lockdown, was actually I coped okay, and I've generally been coping okay, because actually what I've been through before has been that painful that other things by comparison, it's just another, you know, crap thing that's happening that, you know, goes with all the other crap things. But actually the tools I've had through the community, through friends, through Jodie, through Gateway Women, through all of the different things that other people are doing, means that actually I've got a little bit more resilience than I thought I had. And I just wondered if that is true perhaps of other people as well, that we do have some resilience here. And that came out, I think, in perhaps World Childless Week as well. It certainly was very, very busy and very, very active.
Yeah, like you say, I think it gives people that it's an opportunity to be themselves and not be looked at in their minds the wrong way. Because it doesn't mean, just because we're speaking out doesn't mean to say that people are judging us, but we often think people are judging us. And the fact we can speak out in a community where we know the mass audience there are in the same sort of boat, that they do understand where we're coming from and the anger that we might be expressing, or the happiness we found when we've gone through that grief. We know they understand, so it gives us that freedom. Yeah, so I'm sort of forgetting my train of thought there. But yeah, I do think, like you say, it's really important that we've got those different options to express ourselves in different ways. And like you say, for some, it's through the singing with Helen, or it's through the art with Helen, 2 Helens. But it's finding different ways to express ourselves and get those emotions out. And whether we just connect with the audience of the childless community, whether we connect sometimes with the child-free or parents, or whether we, more importantly, just connect with ourselves and actually look at our own emotions and sort of try and not even understand them, but just accept they're there. And we don't know necessarily why they're there, but they're there. And we're allowed to put them through words, through art, through voice. We're allowed to use them. And if they say, oh, you know, we're doing that now, then it shows that we were once where they are now, perhaps, but we've all changed, and they can change too, and they might not ever believe it's going to happen. For the vast majority it will, and for the vast majority I certainly hope it does.
Yeah, and look, I'd like to add to that. I guess I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much, Michael, Sarah and Berenice, for creating this incredible space for our community and inviting us in. So it's Sarah here from the Empty Cradle, and I reflect on your podcast, and it feels to me like having a beer at the pub with really good mates. And so I think what you're doing really goes to the heart of our experience, which is very much about the experience of shame. And shame has that thing where you feel like you're sitting in a dark tunnel by yourself, and what you do is you shine light onto it and onto that experience. And as each of us gathers our voice and steps forward and tells our story, more and more of us are actually to step into the light and able to claim and talk to our experience. And I think the flip side of that experience is where it's not seen, is that we are forced to actually renegotiate in a way our relationship with ourselves, and to look at what are the skills that we need to actually get through this. Essentially it's a really life-altering grieving experience. And I think it when you learn the skills to navigate that, to be present to your feelings, to companion your own grief, it fundamentally transforms who you are in the world. And I think that's the essence of the journey of transition that we go through. So people talk about this idea of transition to parenthood, and this is our transition journey, and the person that we are coming out of this journey or through this journey is altered. We've, in many ways, we're quite altered, and I would agree with you, Berenice, that then puts us in a place where other adversity happens in our life, and we actually have the skills to navigate difficult journeys and dark places. And the other thing that we do is, and I was thinking about this around Christmas, I guess, is that I went through some really, really tough Christmases and felt so invisible and my grief unseen, and where people weren't able to hold the space or even inquire into how I was journeying around the transition to childlessness, and just not understanding it at a really fundamental level, just how big that was as a personal journey. And I guess part of my grief was grieving what I needed in terms of support from the people around me. But I guess what it also meant was that, in a way, they, through that process, actually almost like censored themselves out or excluded them from the intimate space in my life, and actually meant that I needed to actually move them a little bit further out, because they weren't people who were willing to be in that emotional space, to hold that journey. And at the same time, other people who were willing to come in and listen. And I really noticed that it was others who'd been through the journey, and how critically important it is to connect with others who've walked the same path. And, it's the work that you do, the work that Steph does through World Childlessness Week, that really illuminates and allows us to feel a sense of normalcy and pride, and able to go, yeah, we are strong.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's just such lovely words, and it's such interesting to hear you reflect on that. One thing that popped up in my head as you were talking was how perhaps I wonder whether this whole situation that we have is almost like a leveler, that in that our grief, get my words right, try and think what I'm thinking, get it out, because it was just there in my head and I'm losing the train of thought. But this year is our first Christmas at home in about 6-7 years. Normally we run away. I run away from Christmas, and this year I've decided to stay here, and ironically probably won't see anyone. But it occurred to me that, you know, kind of facing up to grief and how it's changed me. And what's I've thought recently is that our grief is lifelong. You know, we keep going with our grief. It never leaves us. And I think other sorts of grief, perhaps that people who are not in our community perhaps experience, can be periodic. You know, we will remember and reflect the passing of somebody, or the passing of a situation, or a memory. And in a way, because perhaps this pandemic has been constant, and at the time of recording this in the UK in lockdown, we're kind of back where we started from in March, that it's a constant grief. So we're all feeling this weight of the grief of a changed life, of a change. We can't go out anymore. We can't do the things that we used to do this time last year. We can't do the Christmas that we had last year. And I wonder whether perhaps for some of us, actually, that's actually a bit of a relief. It's like we get a bit of a break from it. You know, we can perhaps own a little bit more of the celebrations or the activities that we may have had during December, or at least be able to sort of perhaps find a leveler where we're all experiencing some form of grief. Just ours is a little bit different and tinged by perhaps something else. And maybe it's maybe it's just balancing the scales. I'm randomly talking here. I'm going to stop now. Andy, how have you been? How are you going to cope this Christmas? And how are you feeling?
I was just listening, fascinated by Steph and Sarah and yourself in terms of just reflecting on the year. And it echoes a lot of, I think, my own journey and sort of how I've become part of the childless community, which was through World Childless Week. Submitted 2018, I submitted the story that Steph put up, and then I sort of think I met Sarah through Twitter, and then there's the Full Stop and more Facebook support groups of Steph, the Childless Acceptance one, and that. And I was doing all that while the world was sort of normal, which, as we found out, that normal necessarily wasn't good for us. And it was sort of very slow and piecemeal. And then I started a PhD because I thought that would be a nice counterbalance to doing therapy. It turns out it's probably the harder work. But and it was during that I sort of thought, something isn't still quite right. I've left a job I didn't really get a lot of meaning from, because I was doing something else alongside the therapy to pay mortgages, etc. Life is like that. And it was sort of waking up on the PhD that this could be so much more. It made me look at myself again with the grief to sort of think, where am I with it? Because pre the PhD, I did little bits, but nowhere near as much work as my wife did. In a sense, she sort of was a light, because it sort of I could see how the work she'd done, the time she took for herself, the changes in her jobs had such a positive impact on her. And so I sort of went away and read Jodie's book and had to sort of think about it as a man rather than a woman. But there's lots in her book that is applicable to a man, especially I think when you're in a couple and you've gone through it together. And I think Helen's empowered work through Childless Week in 2019, and I started just owning it more, which I think is something that's coming out of the conversation here, how we own ourselves and how we relate to ourselves. Because I think one thing with childlessness is, especially in the grief, is you go out in the world and there's so many triggers out there, and it can just be like a baby on board sign on a car, let alone something much more physical and sort of punch in the stomach sort of feel to it. And I think one way of lessening those triggers was sort of getting to know that I'm okay. And so it's still an ongoing issue or process around the shame of not being a dad, or somehow that not being a man, as well as it being disappointing. But I think the more I work on it, the more I connect, the more I'm okay with the situation. It's still not what I wanted, but the sense that I can make something from it. And so I think where I'm going from this is because of that work, because of this community, with Michael, I've sort of helped him with the Clan of Brothers. I've ended up on Radio 5 talking about childlessness to the world, in a sense. And I think the biggest thing about that was that I told my parents about it before I did it. Normally when I do things, they find out afterwards, because it's just a complicated relationship in my mind. But I wasn't ashamed about it. I wasn't sort of scared of what I might say. I just thought, no, this is, Robin's asked me to come along. It sounds good, it sounds interesting, so I'm going to do this, and this is me, and that's okay. And that felt really empowering, that I could do it on national radio. I think it helped, it was on Skype and I was looking at a black screen and you're not in a studio with the people. But also that I had told people about it in advance, and that seemed really good, that I wasn't scared of who I wasn't ashamed of who I was, and that seemed such a big step, and that wouldn't happen without the community. And that really is my impotence with helping Michael with the Clan of Brothers. My activity outside of that at times dips up and down just because life is busy. That's just what life is in a strange way. But that just feels really good to sort of start to give something back, to offer that support. Because I think part of the reason Rach was able to do the work is there was Gateway Women due to Jodie. And she had that place to talk, to connect. Whereas a man, there was a void. And there's also that within my life. So I think for me, it is part about, for people who unfortunately find themselves in the circumstances, who identify as a man, it is like we need a space for people to talk, or just to be and not talk, post a photo, just to do whatever, but to know they're not alone, to borrow another Michael's phrase. So I'm not sure if that's a reflection of the year or just my general process over the last 3 years, but it's good to be in a better space. I have got thoughts around Christmas, but I will just stop for now and let someone else talk, and then come back to the Christmas festive theme, really. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I think that having met you on Twitter, I can't remember how long we've been tweeting, but as you said, through the podcast and also through Sarah as well, that it's been fascinating and so interesting to see how you've contributed to the community, Andy, and how valuable a person you are in what we're doing with the podcast, but also with other groups as well. I think both you and Michael, I admire you so much, both of you, for doing what you've done. I admire lots of people in our community. Every presenter we've had, I'm kind of awestruck that they turn up onto the podcast and talk to us. And Steph and Sarah, the work that you do is incredible. But I think actually both you and Michael and the Clan of Brothers is just so hugely, hugely important what you're doing. And I just hope that that continues to grow, because it's needed. And it's always done, I think, as well from the heart and with honesty. And it's been just, it's so rewarding from my point of view, sitting here as a friend, as a co-presenter, and just watching and seeing how you've both grown. Particularly in this last year, has been so lovely to see and so rewarding. So thank you so much. It's been just lovely to have you on, a guest on the podcast here today as well as last month too. Thank you.
I can second that, because my partner Kevin, he is part of Clan of Brothers, and when he met Michael, you know, he said to me afterwards, he said, that's the first man I've ever spoken to who has been through what I've been through in the last 10 years. And it really, really, really touched him very, very deeply to be seen and to be honoured, because it unfolds, as you both know, you know, it unfolds quite differently for men as it does for women. And I know from his perspective how much he really valued that. And so, yeah, very big thank you. Yes, on many levels. Thank you.
I think it's also interesting as well how many voices have come up this year. I don't know, something you've noticed, Steph. I know you touched on that with World Childless Week, but I think from the outside of the community, and we get things come in. We obviously, as a podcast, we're looking at social media a lot, and we're kind of trying to pick up as much as we can. And I know that there's been a book club that started recently, and I'm hoping that we can get the person behind the book club onto the podcast as well, Lisa, who is on Twitter, and we follow her on our Twitter account, so you can find her that way. But she's doing a specific voluntary childlessness book club. There's been so many things have happened this year, and so many new voices and so many new initiatives that it's really quite hard to keep up as well. It's been quite exciting to see this innovation that's happening, because I think maybe perhaps people have got a little bit of space perhaps to think, oh, how can I fill that gap? How can I do this and how can I do that? And of course, new podcasts as well. The Unwrapped community, of course, has started as well in Australia. So we have other podcasts joining too. So Steph, have you noticed that from your side when you've been looking at World Childless Week and perhaps reviewing what other people have been doing?
Massively. It's almost like we've been trickling out and all of a sudden we're going, hey, we're here. And there seems to be people coming from every direction that are now coming out, because normally after World Childless Week, I go, okay, that's it. I sit back, I relax. Eventually my brain slows down, then I relax, I should say. And then I don't sort of reappear until sort of May, June next year. And in our little champions group, I sort of go, okay, things have been mulling over my head. I haven't been publicly posted about it, but they're mulling over my head. Let's go forward and start planning for the next World Childless Week. All I will say is I've already got people offering podcasts to do before Christmas. Not podcasts, webinars to help our community. Not really had that before. I've already been invited to a few events next year. Never had that before. I've done a book review. Never done that so quickly. I've done a couple, but never suddenly had, here's an endorsement, get it done that quick. And it's like, oh, crikey. Where's all this busyness coming from after World Childless Week? I've also had people offering books ready for next year's World Childless Week. I've got people saying, how can I get involved more, for next year's World Childless Week? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's almost like, give me a break. But at the same time, wow, this is so exciting. I'm really happy. And I can't believe I've already got a folder in my email box for World Childless Week 21, because people are coming forward with their ideas and their offers. And I've never had that before. Never had it within the first few weeks of the World Childless Week finishing that we're already pre-planning. As I said, my head's often thinking things over, but it's unbelievable how many people are coming back to me so quickly, and they want to start getting involved in an idea I had for something to help that us come together in a community in a different way to create World Childless Week. I mentioned to one person because she was like, I want to get involved, what can I do? What can I do now? And I said, well, I've thought about this idea, what do you think? And just being able to brainstorm again with somebody new coming into our community, it's really refreshing, and it's exciting is the only way I can think of, because I can't believe these people are already here now wanting to do something that's almost a year away. And I think, like you said, it shows how much we are creeping out from those pebbles and stones and saying, I'm here, ta-da, I want to speak, I want to talk, I want to do something. And that's what it's about. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, but it can be a little thing, but they want to do something. They want to be part of us. And it's really, really exciting and wonderful to see so many people taking that step.
It's almost like we're starting to claim our space in the culture, isn't it?
Yes, we're here. Yeah. We're not silent anymore.
Yeah.
Thanks to the efforts, I think, of all the people who are providing the coaching and the tools, I think, to give that voice. The work that you're doing with the Empty Cradle as well, Sarah, I think is so important. And there is just more out there. Muriel as well, Sarah, of course, our Sarah, too, doing so much work, and Gateway Women with their workshops as well. There's just more out there now. I think when I came to the point where I realised that I wouldn't be a mother, this is nothing. There was a few bits. I think actually for just Gateway Women, I think that's probably it. And now then you look at the resources that we have and the lists that we have, particularly on the World Childless Week website, there's so many on there now of places that people can get information and advice from. It's so incredibly important. One thing I wanted to just ask about. So, Sarah, Michael, please, I'm sitting here, I'm having such a wonderful time talking to our guests, but I'm just aware that I'm dominating the podcast. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to just let you guys just sort of come in here, because you've both been very quiet, and they've had distractions and stuff going on. So I'm going to just be quiet and ask you to, say some words.
Oh, okay, just bung it over. I'm just a bit jaded, so, a bit tired. But I suppose it's interesting. You sort of started talking about what there was when you were first aware that you weren't going to be a parent. I was 20, I think it was 2014, 2015. And you're right, there was only Gateway. There was only Jodie sort of banging the drum for the community. And I think now you see so much more going on and so much innovation in terms of what people are prepared to offer our community. I think it's only a matter of time before actually we can start actually properly claiming our space and people recognising that we've got needs that aren't being addressed at the moment. And I think bringing it back to COVID has really highlighted that. You've got all the stuff about parents, and yes, they've got their needs because it's going to be tough for them, but there are things that aren't being addressed for us. And I think there's only a matter of time before we start shouting, as Steph said, we're here, hello, we're here, what are you going to do for us? That it's only going to be a question of time. But it's been interesting to hear everyone reflecting back, because I know I've moved on a little bit since we've started doing the podcast, and obviously I've qualified and I'm working with people now, and in that there's some healing for me too. So I think it's interesting that Steph is working with people that are just joining, because therein lies all of the, what they need rather than what we need, where we're perhaps further down the track, because your needs do change, don't they? You're not necessarily going to have the same outlook as when you either find that you're not going to be a parent through whatever means, or it's that slow dawning that you're not going to be a parent. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good thing. In actual fact, I'm looking forward to Christmas this year because I haven't got to fucking bother with anyone. It's great. Bring on the lockdown. What about everyone else?
I think that's interesting though, because it's something popped into my head then when you were talking about. Oh, it's gone out of my head. What were you? There was something about a light bulb that happened, and I thought that is just so true. And I'm just trying to think what it was. We'll edit this bit out because I can't remember. I will remember when I listen back, and I'll be like, "Damn, I didn't say that," because that was the thing that Sarah said that was really, really, really significant. I know what it was. No, I know what it was. Lifelong. So it's almost like we now have a kind of a pathway through, if you like. We have the counselling services and the support for people when they first start to think, oh gosh, this is what is happening. And you have the support that happens after that. Maybe you're not in need of that counselling, but you need a community, and you start to build the community through World Childless Week, through all of the amazing groups on Facebook. And then you have that support that's sort of afterwards with the podcast, with book groups, with all and going out and actually meeting other people in whatever way that might be. And right now that's Zoom based, but in a way that also gives us, we get to know each other in a different way. I'm thinking actually of Steph, you and I, and how we met, because we had done the World Childless Week, and then we met after that. So we've kind of like attacked the website, stuff together, and then finally we met after that. So we got to meet each other in an online way, and that almost kind of makes it's a more challenging way of meeting somebody, but actually is a more fulfilling way, because you find that I think my strongest friendships always come through this community. I have a few friends that are parents who are very, very good friends of mine, because we've known each other for so long, and they have that empathy. But the empathy has come because my journey has changed, because of our community, because you start to realize that there are different challenges that everyone in the world has. But yeah, you and I, we met in that kind of weird way of Zoom then in person, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think, as you say, it's almost like because well, our focus when we're sort of dealing with childlessness is on childlessness. So we've very much got one strong topic that we all know, so we can talk about it. And that then leads to such a strong and in-depth conversation with so many emotions that everything else is almost could be light-hearted in comparison to it. So if you've got that inner strength and trust and empathy for each other because of that childlessness, you, like you say, it gives you the confidence to speak about other things, and it's not so hard to start those conversations. So you build up the knowledge of the other people that you're talking with, and like you say, you get to know them before you meet them. And like you say, our meeting was it was insane, it was bizarre, and we just went yeah, pretty much like we do anyway.
Yeah, I got chatted up by the waiter. Do you remember the waiter?
God, yeah,
he was hot. He was very hot. Yeah, that's a shame of lockdown. We can't go back and see the nice waiter.
Oh, dear. Okay, lockdown.
Anyway,
we know where we're going.
Yeah, we're going straight down to see the hot waiter.
But I think it's amazing because I think the other time that we all met was I knew you.
Yeah.
And then we went to Fertility Fest.
Yeah.
And I met Lucy for the first time. And I was nervous because, like, meeting these people I've talked to online, but I still get those nerves of meeting people face to face, even Zooming with someone for the first time. I get butterflies. But it's amazing how quickly you can settle down into thinking, actually, I do know this person. I don't need to be worried. So when we all sort of met for Fertility Fest, it was you and me, we met each other, we knew each other, it was good. Then Lucy came along, we got chatting, it's good. And we're all sitting there going, hang on a minute, we're waiting because we know soon that Michael Hughes and his wife Vicky are going to walk through that door. And obviously, because of being
that film star, that superstar,
Michael's name, wasn't it? We were all
totally killed the pub.
Yeah, we were expecting him from one door and he came from a side door. He sort of came halfway through the pub.
He's wild like that. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was just so exciting as well. But it's almost like we got up, we all hugged, and we hugged like we were old friends.
Yeah.
Because we did know each other, even though we'd never had that physical connection. We knew each other. And those 24 hours of being together were just amazing.
To be fair, I knew you. I knew Lucy because I've met Lucy a couple of times in person through Gateway Women. And you've been speaking to Michael. I think I had about 3 conversations with him on Facebook. And then, of course, I went down to London because I just thought I would. And I was like, yeah, I'll just hug anyone.
But that isn't it? You go somewhere like that. And I said to somebody else, I said that, it was heaven from more to life because she was nervous about going to Fertility Fest. And I said, it's like you walk into a room that's full of hugs. It's like one big hug because you end up hugging people you don't know. You think, I might have known them, I might not know. But you hug and you don't mind because you know them. You know inside their hearts. Mm. And therefore you know a little bit about them. And everybody welcomes everybody. And it's being in that community again where you're not afraid. Mm. You know everybody in that room supports you and loves you for who you are, not who you could have been. Who you thought you were going to be. And all I can say is, Michael, you should be in on this conversation. How did you feel when you walked into these mad, free screaming women in a pub? You've got to tell us.
Groupies.
Yes, sorry I had to pop out, but I've been welding all day and it's quite hot down here at the moment. And I've been chugging water like nothing else, and I've just had the biggest pee ever. It was huge. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Nice.
And I could just tell you there's nothing wrong with prostate.
Are you going to keep that in the podcast?
There's those deep and meaningful
you always pick out our bits, and now we can, I want to edit this one and put that one first.
It's the deep and meaningful.
It was. I can tell you that I was a little bit nervous. Vicky was petrified because she is very, very quiet girl. But it was fantastic. It's everything you said, Steph. And by the end of that, after Fertility Fest, I still talk about how there's Helen, Julia, Vicky crying their eyes out, hugging each other outside as we were trying to look for food. And Vicky says to me, I feel like I've found my place. I feel like I've found where I belong. So, yes, and that will sit with me. That will sit with me forever. yeah, that was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. And so much so that, so Vicky's idea is that she would look to our later years. Actually, she talks about, we could live in a community, like a cooperative community with other childless people. I'd like that, because like we've all said, it's only us that understands us. But this year's been an interesting one for me. My job takes me around Australia a lot, and I have one of the perks of that is I get to meet people. So I get to meet Sarah Roberts, and that was a really, really beautiful moment too, and especially with a husband, because. And I could see the comfortableness that was between us, because some of the things we talked about are not the sort of things you talk about when you first meet someone. And it's not just around childlessness; it was around other things in his life, and so that spurred me on. That spurred me on to meet other people. So I've just come back from South Australia, where I met Carmen. Hi, Carmen. I know she won't be listening to this for at least another 6-8 months, because she's well behind on the podcast. Thank you for your comments about what I'm up to and what Andy's up to. But I do feel like I've grown this year. The podcast has allowed me to grow, which I've really enjoyed. I remember the episode where we talked about COVID and loneliness. Now, of course, I'm in not a unique position, but I'm in a position where I'm in a partnership. So I was thinking about COVID and loneliness. I'm thinking, what's the difference? This is what life has been like for forever. No one comes to our house anyway because of and it's all around our childlessness. I mean, no one comes and visits us. And I was just sitting there thinking, for me, was it really that bad? Look, I don't actually notice any difference. And it would be actually quite interesting if we're able to sort of bottle that up as an essence and say to people who don't understand us, hey, this is what it's like. Try this. So yeah, it's been an interesting time this year. I've run out of things to say because I'm knackered.
What were you actually welding?
I'm building a truss frame for there's going to be a decorative door in our decorative garden door in our garden. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a decorative garden door. So it's got to be lightweight. I can't do it all out of stone, so I'm making a steel frame to then clad in Hebel to then give the effect that it looks like stone.
You're crazy. Can I just say you're crazy? I just go out and buy one.
Oh no! This is monstrous. This thing. This is like 2 meters wide. It's 2.7 tall.
Yeah, I should go buy one, or I wouldn't bother.
Can't do it half-assed.
What are you going to have coming through that door, Michael?
Nothing. That's the whole point. Because it just covers the horrible shed of my neighbour. So Vicky said, I've been looking at that for 20 years. I don't want to look at it anymore. So we're building a screen, Merbau and rock screen, and in the middle of it will be this ornate doorway to give you the illusion there's more, but of course there's not.
It's like Narnia.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
I still need you to get on the plane and come over and sort out the garden here. I decided it needs sorting out, and I look at it, and there's a bit at the back of our shed that's just falling apart, and I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to do with it? And I thought I had to ask Michael about that, and I think I'll just come up with some kind of frigging welding job or something that I can't do. I have got a soldering iron because I sold stuff for the glasswork, but I'm not let loose on anything else. It's probably just as well.
I so wished I could have come across it. Both Vicky and I were gutted, because it was almost going to be like our childless tour. We had people lined up everywhere. Steph, Andy, Robin. I even had Tess Broad down in Cornwall lined up. Sarah, you of course, Berenice, Who else
And
was
you were
there?
going to go up to Clem's Garden, so the
And I
lovely
was going to
Vicky
Clem's
at
Garden.
Clem's Garden, and you were going to go and see flowers before I did. And I was so we still got to do that road trip. So it got into a weird conversation where Sarah and I were going to go off and do a road trip in order to beat Michael to get to as many people as we could. That may yet happen.
2021.
Yeah.
And then from some of my other interests, I've been able to bring people into the fold, so to speak. So there's some other childless women that I'd invited to our birthday party, so that they could, feel the love, so to speak.
And cake. Yeah, so there was cake as well.
Yeah.
The cake.
And then I could have told you about my nan who worked up the road at Gilby's Gin. I could have been telling stories all day.
Blimey, be like the podcast on speed, wouldn't it?
It would. God, we're going to try and record some of it as well. It would have been an absolute nightmare, really.
Yeah, it would have been.
An awful lot of We can make it bigger and better when this is over. And it will. It has to end at some point. We've just got to stick with it and try and do the best we can and stay safe and stay well and patient and keep in touch with each other and keep talking to each other, and don't be afraid to say, look, actually I need a bit of help, because we've been doing that on the podcast. So as we all know from our experiences, grief isn't linear. It never is. As much as people I think like to say these things, it doesn't always work like that. And we've had days when we've just struggled, all three of us, and we've just been in touch with each other, either Zoom or Messenger. The dog's just arrived. If you hear kind of like shaking of collars and tails, it's my dog. Or snoring, because she settled in the bed. She'll be quite noisy in a minute. But yeah, talk to each other, because we've been doing that too. Always just talk to each other, get out and go for a safe, socially distanced walk or whatever you need to do. But it's definitely very important to keep in touch with friends, because chances are somebody out there in our world is going through exactly the same feelings as you. There's no answers to things, but at least you can sit there and have a shared rant, which the three of us have been doing quite a lot behind the scenes. Just that frustration of everything. But yeah, very important. One thing I wanted to touch on what you said there, Michael, about Christmas and about being no one coming round. I kind of, when I mentioned about Christmas here and us being here, and one of the reasons we went away was because we knew we wouldn't have any guests, and it almost kind of covers up that absence of, because my Christmases as a child were really busy. It was full of family. It was big. It was, 2 or 3 sittings for dinners, and both kitchens in my grandparents' house used, sometimes the caravan kitchen too. So I miss that terribly. I always miss that. It's always something that's on my mind on Christmas Day. So going away was just always a little bit easier. It kind of, you think, oh, well, I haven't got to avoid the fact that no one's going to come round. And this year, of course, we're going to be here and no one's going to come round. But of course, you can kind of use the pandemic to say, well, no one's going to come round. So when I've seen all this stuff that's going on social media about people saying, I'm going to be on my own, and going back to that kind of leveling again, well, yeah, this is kind of what it can often be like for our community, that people don't come round. They don't have spontaneous visitors in the way that other people do. And my parents do, but that's kind of it. But oddly, I did have a spontaneous visit over the summer from somebody, and I was really surprised with my family that this person turned up. Spontaneously, I'm popping round, I'm just on the way round. And given I live in the middle of a city where most people come to get their shopping, it's odd that no one does come round, because you'd think they might, because they're literally, going like 2 or 3 streets away to go and get to, their food shopping or something like that, but no one ever does. And it's been interesting that have had the odd spontaneous thing, which kind of makes me a bit worried about Christmas Day, because I might get some spontaneous person turning up. Kind of hoping that they don't.
No.
I've got settled into anti-socialism now. I'm like, that's my new phrase, my word of the day, anti-socialism. Not socialist, but anti-socialism is a new term. I've just made it up. I don't think it's a word already yet. But anyway, I've been practicing anti-socialism on Christmas Day and hunkering down and putting on the telly and watching all of the rubbish and vegetating beautifully. And I probably have macaroni cheese, I think, because I've missed it. I haven't had macaroni cheese for a long time. I don't do Christmas dinner. I can't be arsed. What's the point? Anyway. That's me. Bar humbug. I randomly pop up on Zoom and be in touch with people in our community with them without champagne, because of course Steph and I have discovered that neither of us like champagne, and therefore, Sarah Lawrence, you cannot possibly tell me off anymore.
Madness. Well, bung it over here, I'll have it.
I know, I've got bottles here for when I see you. Yeah, I do. I do. I have got champagne here.
Have you?
I've got one here for you. Yeah, so I've got to kind of arrange at some point to meet up with you and gift you champagne, because there's no point in sitting here.
Oh, how fantastic. Shall I just drop by on Christmas Day then? Shall I?
Yeah, you tell me. You be my random on Christmas Day. Yeah, you can do it. I would like that very much.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Wouldn't it? Be terrible. Yeah. Then we'd be on Zoom to Michael going, woohoo! And it would be awful.
I would.
Yeah.
I rocked up to that. We did one of our sort of get-togethers for people that we've been doing randomly, and I rocked up pissed, and Berenice goes, "Oh yeah, I've gone teetotal," and I was like, "Oh shit!"
I have. So I've been teetotal since October. No special reason. There's no issues or anything like that. Promise. It was just that I wanted. I was getting to the point where it was just like, oh, it's wine. I'm thinking I don't actually know what day of the week it is. I'd lost the plot in terms of kind of like, is it Monday, Tuesday, or Saturday, and every day was wine day. And I thought, no, I'm going to just be really good. And then I discovered some really lethal stout called Brownie Pints, and it's it's a stout, and it's got caramel and it's like chocolate pudding liquid with alcohol. It is absolutely lethal, and I thought, no, okay, I've really just got, this is not good. And I think it's like 11 or 12%, something like that. So it's like your real strong stuff. You see, Andy's laughing. Yeah, it's proper strong. This is the kind of stuff that when we did the very first men's episode, and we arranged, I think, for a pub crawl when we all met with Robin Hadley. Rod Silvers. I don't think you were on that, Andy, but yeah, you're definitely invited anyway. It's kind of this pub crawl that we were going to do, and it was just like, well, I actually drink stout, and it was like, Jesus, and it's a really strong stout, this stuff. It's 11%. You have to kind of build up to it. So I thought, no, I'm just going to go teetotal for a bit. So I have since, October. So when I do get a sniff of something on Christmas Day, I'm going to fall over. I will. I just got to fall over. It's going to be terrible. But I feel much better for it. I feel so much healthier for it. And I think it just gave me a little bit of sense of control as well, because the days all were blurring into one. Because it just is, you've just got to try and remember, what am I meant to be doing today? Is it Sunday? Because it's just every day's the same in lockdown. So I feel much healthier for it. And it's a sense of control, and just feeling a little bit better, and not berating myself, because I'm terrible for that. I berate myself constantly over things. I have a very big struggles with worth and value. So to just take back some control, and to just eat really healthily, and to be healthy, and to go out and start doing some running, and to do some kettlebells and things, has been absolutely much better. My lockdown 2, if you like, has been much better than my lockdown 1. Although I felt resilient, I was sort of, thinking, it's a bit like it's nice. I enjoyed the quiet and the peace around the city here, but I got kind of like, I'll sit in the garden with a few bevies, and I needed to just chill a bit on that. So it's good, all good. But sorry I let you down, Sarah.
No, shocked and appalled.
I know. So you haven't quite got over Champagne Gate yet, have you, darling?
No, I thought we were doing like a virtual pub, so there's me rocking up two bottles in. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm slurring, and
you were not. You were perfect. What amazes me is how non-slurry and eloquent you remain after 2 or 3 bottles, or however many you've had. You were just like, it's just Sarah. So you could get away with it, darling. You could still come turn up today. We wouldn't know. We'd be fine. You're all right. You handle it fine.
I had a few yesterday, so I'm feeling a bit jaded today, actually.
It was your birthday.
I know, I was allowed.
Defo.
So you mentioned you're having macaroni cheese for Christmas, and everyone's got to bugger off. What else is everyone else doing for Christmas? Anyone got any ideas?
For us, I think it could be similarish to past Christmases. So I was just going to say, I can echo Michael and Berenice, that sense of, you come into lockdown and you're like, what's different? Because our friends and family are dispersed, so it's often just us two. And I think sort of that did create a resonance of, we've been here before, because for both of us, part of this year was to sort of get out more, meet more people, sort of build that community. And so there was a stall to that, but then we're both being more active through like Zoom. So me through my PhD in geography, I've met in health and wellbeing, so I'm doing more there online, obviously through you guys, and that's really good. So again, it's about, I know I'm going away from Christmas and I'll come back, but that sort of echoing of, oh, this is our normal, it was nowhere near as painful as childlessness, where then we hunkered down in books, and as I said on the radio, it's like we watched so many box sets, it was ridiculous. And now we do watch TV, but we didn't really watch a lot at all, and we went for walks and we weren't hiding away, and it just felt we could cope with it better. There was obviously difficult days, it's pandemic, isn't it? And we were trying not to drink our way through it, which is probably why we're still drinking now and then. But it just felt good that even through the difficult bits that we could stop. And I say we because it happened to us both, that you could take a day off, you could do a bit, you could allow things to be a bit slower. And so I think to go back to Christmas, or Catmas as we call it, borrowing a phrase off A Street Cat Named Bob, the film and the books, like I've personally struggled with Christmas a long time because I don't believe in gods or Christianity at all. I was brought up Catholic. I hated going to church on Christmas Day. The worst thing was when Christmas Day was a Saturday and then you'd have to go to church on a Sunday, or you'd have double bowel of religion, and it wasn't for me. And so I really struggled transferring Christmas to like festive, because I'm not pagan either, or like a winter festival, especially without children, build something around because people are still doing things. And the thing that, since picking up Catmas, and I think that helped last year, but this year will help more, is the sense of it's different, because you've not got your Christmas meals, your Christmas drinks, friends. It's all different. So it sort of feels like more of a chance to own it and make it our own. And so I think that's another part of moving on from childlessness, is I'm okay calling it Catmas, even if it sounds a bit silly. It's just ours. It's us two. It's the paws. You've probably seen one popping a tail up. And one thing Rach said to me, which, because I was like, oh, it still bubbles the difficulty around it. And she's like, just have no expectations. And then it's made me think that the best times have always been spontaneous, like a random night where we've enjoyed ourselves, a random walk to a pub. It's just bits you don't plan. And so for us, for Catmas, we both got 2 weeks off, and there isn't any plan because you can't make it. And we said on the actual day, we thought we might go for a run because Rachel's doing couch to 5k, so we could do a 5k run, maybe along Morecambe Prom, then come home and we can just vegetate the rest of the day. So there will be food, probably a nut roast because I'm vegetarian now. But we said it'd be nice to do a starter and just sort of eat, drink, watch rubbish TV, and just enjoy that. But also spread that across the 2 weeks where there might be some more longer walks or exercise. But it is that sense of I'm in a different place, because it's about just having 2 weeks off, just seeing what happens. And I'm no doubt there'll be days where it's a little tough. And there's reminders. We've got nieces. It's going to come up, but I think it will help just to sort of think for me, just give myself permission to overeat or overdrink, or not do it if I don't want to because it's part of this edition. So just do what comes to mind. So I think that for me is where I'm at with Christmas and the festive season. See, I can say Christmas now. For a long time I wouldn't even say the word. It was festive season. Really going away from it. But it is, just enjoy it, see what happens. Probably lots of food. Might have to try and find something that's stout and then miss a day. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And maybe something with the clan. Maybe we try and offer something around it, like some sort of chat or something, just to see how everyone is, and just for us to get together. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, good idea, Andy. Yeah, because apparently I do claim I did say we'd organise a chat to Agnes in Latvia, but I forgot. So I'll get my arse into gear.
It'll come together. What about anyone else? What are your thoughts?
What are you up to, Sarah? Roberts, that is.
Yeah, look, we haven't given it a lot of thought this year. And look, that kind of surprises me because and it was similar to Mother's Day, actually, to be honest. It was actually the week of Mother's Day here. And I remember someone saying, oh, it's Mother's Day this week. And it kind of took me by surprise. And I guess, like you reflected on, I think, Berenice, is that, and I think Steph, you mentioned as well, is that it's sometimes as you look backwards that you actually can see your progression through the grief. And the reason I say that is that I've had like 15 years of really tough Christmases and really raw Christmases. And I remember when I was going through fertility treatments and coming into December, the fertility clinics would close really from kind of in Australia anyway, the fertility clinics would close between mid-December through to the end of January. Like it just would go into hibernation, and it would be, you knew that you were coming to the end of another year where your children hadn't arrived. And I know for me, I'm sure it's so true for so many of the women in our community, is that it took me actually quite a long time to really, really claim how important being a mother was for me. And I think in the back of my mind, being a mum was, it was like the one fixed point in my life. Like I could look across the future of my life, and the one thing that I knew that was just this assumption that there was, I hadn't actually constructed any sense of that not happening. And so for me, when it didn't happen, the grief was on so many different layers and levels. And really, when I look back at just how raw I was, I think that it literally was the annihilation of my previous identity. Like it was like I was watching myself. It was like 10 years of watching this slow death of this part of myself that felt like it was the mother and the children that were never, that didn't come. And I hadn't really factored in, I hadn't really thought through what a life would actually be like. And to be honest, I wasn't really that curious about what a life without children was going to be like, because, I had always assumed, like I guess lots of us had, that I'd really drunk the Kool-Aid on choice, that people who didn't have children, it was because they chose not to, and people who did was, it was choice. And one of the things that I, the thing that for me that has been through this journey has been like, there's been little nuggets of gold that have unfolded for me along the whole way. And one of them that really I woke to this year was this idea that actually nobody has control over fertility. Like fertility is not something, even the doctors who actually bring the egg and the sperm together, we don't actually have control over fertility. And the way in which this idea of choice is so dominant in the way that we talk about it, what we have control over is we have control over the circumstances in which it may or may not happen. And so it's almost like we wake up to this social delusion. It's like this collective delusion that everyone carries, that we're in charge. And it's kind of like we wake up, it's this incredible awakening to us actually not being in charge of it. And then having to, digest this enormous, I suppose I can swear, this enormous shit sandwich really around, life. Yeah, you've just been through this dumper in life, and you have no map, there's no road map, there's such limited resources. And so for me, the really raw times, and for so many of the women I work with, is particularly in that really, really raw grieving stage, Christmas. Like I remember previous Christmases where I would be beside myself for weeks, and I would just be so reactive in terms of all these grief triggers, and yeah, it was really tough because I remember that, you know, I was going through this life-altering event where I was being annihilated, this sense of being annihilated, and then it was like the people around me, it was completely invisible. Like it wasn't the people who were saying, hey, how are you going in coming to terms with your childlessness? How are you going with that journey? Or were able to be present to the grief and to the intensity of it. And so I guess it and similar, I guess, I felt this sense of being alone. I went and saw a number of counsellors, and there were loads of, you know, pronatalist comments that were made. I remember one therapist I went and saw, she kind of said to me, well, you know, being a mum's not all it's cracked up to be. And I sat there and I went, hang on, I'm grieving. But yeah, I mean, I think what I've found is, as I've done the grief work, it's gone from being, it's felt like grief for quite a few years. It like sat in front of my face, and it was the filter from which I woke to the world, and I went to sleep to the world, and I saw the world through this grieving filter. And as I did the grieving work, it shifted, I think, within me, and it became kind of part of me and part of my internal inside world. And now it feels like it's kind of shifted a little bit further back. So it kind of sits on my shoulder, kind of back here. And it is like the grief that we experience, it's because it's a non-finite, it's an ongoing loss. So it's actually not a loss that's just at that point of you couldn't have children. Most people treat that as a fact. They just go, oh, that's, you know, couldn't have kids, that's the end of the story. Whereas we know that what it actually is, it's an ongoing lived experience where we just get this accumulation of losses as our siblings have children, as our friends' children have children, as we, you guys know the story, you know, as friends become grandparents, etc., etc., etc. So it's actually the losses continue throughout the second half of our life, and the grief actually does as well. But what happens is that the grief becomes this kind of chronic grief that it can sit back here at our shoulder, and it gets triggered out occasionally, and it's just as intense and as raw when it comes up. But we've actually learnt that ability to self-nurture, to be really compassionate and really gentle and really kind with ourselves, and have connections with people around us who've seen our grief. And that's why it's so important as part of our healing to connect with each other. And I guess what I'm realizing now coming into this Christmas is I don't know what to expect, to be honest. I feel like I should have something profound to say, but I actually have no idea. It's just like this year, it's different from the last year. It's different from the previous year. It'll be different from next year. But I just feel more solidly equipped to actually be okay, however that it unfolds, to be able to set some really good boundaries and be able to, to create some distance for ourselves and make some choices and actually navigate Christmas on our own terms. And I guess I'm really conscious that there'll be some people for whom, you know, the pandemic and lockdown and the impact will really impact on their ability to be able to maybe set those boundaries. And so I think it's going to be really important to reach out to each other over Christmas, to really listen to the podcast, participate in our communities, to be online in spaces where we can get the support that we need, particularly if, you know, we're in houses or in lockdown with people that, you know, we may not be able to get away and have those spaces and the ways that we might previously have been able to cope. Like I know for some people, they do things like they'll go away for the week, or I know one friend of mine who would book a hotel room in the center of town, and she would wake up on Christmas morning somewhere really lovely. And she did a lot of planning around, not being in, business as usual. So I guess, to really just take care of ourselves and to try and as much as we can really plan our Christmas on our own terms, I think is really important. think, I mean, the other big shift for me this year, I guess, has been that as I've grieved and I've changed through that process, I've been able to kind of revisit some of the dreams that were really important to me and been able to nurture a few of those a little bit. You know, I've done things like this year. I did a permaculture course, and you may not know, but I live on a couple of acres, and so I've kind of, you know, redirecting some of my energy into some of those things. But I wasn't able to do that in the really acute grieving stage, and so for me, it's just a little bit of almost a marker of moving a little bit further through the process, and, you know, just sending loads of blessings, lots and lots of love. If you're in a really raw space this year, you aren't alone, and do reach out.
Hello, Full Stop podcast listeners. It's Jodie Day here, founder of Gateway Women, wishing you a very, very happy Christmas, happy holidays, and happy New Year. Now, I get that might actually be a bit of a tall order this year after this extraordinary year that we've all had. And I would like to say thank you to all of the members of the Gateway Women online community for being such an incredible support to each other throughout this year, particularly through times of lockdown and social isolation, which have been exceptionally difficult for some members of our community, and I'm sure for some of you listening today. I need to let you know that over the Christmas period and over the holiday period, Gateway Women in the online community, we have put together an extraordinary package of support for you, including our now famous round-the-clock holiday hugs, which is literally every time zone in the world from 6 a.m. to midnight on the 25th of December. Do come and join us for that. And we have other things like our holiday market. We have various different gateway cafes, which are our live Zoom calls for members, and all kinds of wonderful things. There's stuff for members. There's also stuff for non-members. So do check out the Gateway Women website for all of the things we're doing in December and into January. I'd also like to send my holiday wishes and thanks to Karen Enfield de Vries, who is my wing woman at Gateway Women. She has joined Gateway Women as our operations director and has been an incredible support to me and to the whole community this year. So it's also her birthday in December. And to be honest, having her help me at Gateway Women has been a little bit like my birthday every day this year as well. So I'd like to send a special Christmas message to her. I'd also like to thank Elizabeth Gramsch, who, along with Karen, has been leading our Online B, which is Gateway Women's year-long Plan B mentorship program. It has been an incredibly difficult and challenging year to do a course which is about personal transformation online with Gateway Women, with everything else that's going on in people's life. And both Karen and Elizabeth have shown incredible leadership in doing those this year. And hello to all their bees and to my bees as well, because I have a group too. And if you're interested, that course starts again next April. So in the year of COVID 2020, I send you all my very, very best wishes for the best Christmas you can manage this year. And know that in the Gateway Women online community and in so many other of the brilliant childless resources there are now, there are amazing women and men, thank you, Michael, who are there to support you, who understand how triggering and unpredictably triggering this time of year can be. Next year will be Gateway Women's 10th anniversary. I cannot believe that. And we've got all kinds of things planned, which we'll see. Pandemic planned, let's just see what happens. So sending you lots of love and mince pies and hugs and puppies and kittens and whatever you need to get through this holiday season. And I'll see you on the other side. Lots of love and a big Jodie hug.
We have a little story actually that Kev and I laugh about, which I don't know if I can tell this online, but this is actually quite funny in relation to Michael, because we've got a little dog called Maxie, Maxie was the dog that companioned me really companioned both of us, but particularly companioned me. He really stuck to me like glue, particularly during the really griefy times. Things like, you know, when you'd have your period arrive after IVF and you'd just be sobbing and you'd go and you'd put yourself into bed, and Max would sit at the end of my bed, or he'd come up and he'd lick the tears off my face. And he was my dog, my really loyal companion. And anyway, Maxie does this thing that when we arrive home, if we open the door and Kevin's in front, Max will literally circle around Kevin so that he can come and say hello to me. It's just like, poor Kevin, like, it's a bit tough. But we laugh because when Michael arrived at our house, he almost circled around me and went, "Where's Kevin?" It was so cute. We just loved it. It was so lovely for Kevin, because it was so precious for him to actually connect with another man who'd been through the journey, and it was so validating for him. And, you know, that was a really special connection for him to make. So if you can get up, we'd love it, Michael. You're always welcome. Always a seat at our table.
All right. I'll see if Kevin needs anything. If he needs anything manufactured in the workshop before I come up.
Oh yeah. Kevin is into 1960s minis, so he's got a shed full of them. So he's tinkers.
And she's not joking when she says a shed full of them. She's not joking.
He does. He's got minis, he's got Morris 1100s, and that's his thing. He builds engines from the engine mount up. So yes.
Wow.
The only thing he doesn't do is the bodywork, is the painting. So he sends that into the shop to be painted, but that's his thing, is his cars.
Well, you may be grateful that Kenny's actually only into motorbikes, because they're a little bit smaller.
They are smaller. They're much more manageable.
Although, to be fair, I get a little grumpy about it, but yeah, that's okay. I should think of Kevin, and
they could have worse vices.
Yeah, could be a whole thing going on there, couldn't there? Could be dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Steph, what are you up to?
Yeah, what are you up to, Steph?
Bit different this year, because normally we'd go down and stay at my mum's, and usually at Christmas Day we normally at my brother's, and he does all the cooking, which is amazing, so I can sit back and really enjoy the day. And I'm lucky in the fact that I do enjoy Christmas. I look forward to it. But this year's different because hubby's on call, so we don't know what will happen Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Boxing Day. He could literally be sitting down to eat something, get that call, and have to go out to work, and could be gone for an hour or 12 hours. So we've got no control. And that's a word that's come up quite a few times. We've talked about control. And I think that's controlling our emotions, controlling our situations, controlling how we react, controlling what we decide to do. And I think the big thing about Christmas is knowing that some things we can control, some things we can't. And it's okay not to be in control. So if a situation's hard and we get emotional, we shouldn't control our emotions. If we can let them out, it's better to do that. And I think that's a big thing for Christmas, that we have the control to let our control go and release the emotions and not hold back on them. There's situations we can't control. If we're invited somewhere we feel we have to go regardless of lockdown, we may have to go because of work. We can't control that. But we've got the opportunity to control who we do meet, not necessarily in reality, but via Zoom. We can actually say no to a Zoom meeting if we don't want to go to it. And it doesn't matter what reactions people may give us, or we may assume they react to us. We have the control to say, no, I don't want to do that Zoom chat. And we can make up an excuse. We don't have to let them know it's down to childlessness. We could say, oh, sorry, I've just developed a really heavy cough and I don't want to come online and cough in front of everybody, or I'm feeling I've got a headache, I need to go to bed. We can make up white lies and give ourselves control to not attend that Zoom or not to be somewhere. But we can't control our emotions always. That's the hardest thing to control. But it's okay not to have control. So I think it's looking at control in different ways, what we can control, what we can't control, but accepting the level of control we have. Like I said, I can't control if my hubby will have to go to work on Christmas Day. But I could control perhaps to say, you know what, on Christmas Eve, you've worked during the day, you're not tired. Should we just watch a session of horror movies And then if I sleep in for half of the day on Christmas Day, does it matter? You might have to get up and go to work, but I might not have to. I have the control to say Christmas Day can be what I want it to be. I might stay in bed for half a day, get up and eat a cold takeaway that was left over from the night before. That could be my new Christmas tradition, that we have takeaways. And I think it's all about Christmas is, we sort of see it like lack of control because of family. We think of traditions that we had as children. We think of, well, we don't think of commercialism, but it's in our face. They're the ones who really push the family ideal again, and the perfect present, the perfect day, the perfect dinner. But perfect dinner could be a cold takeaway. Perfect Christmas films could be horror movies. And we've got the control to say how we actually want to treat ourselves emotionally on Christmas Day and in the lead up. It could be we say, okay, why are we focusing on one day? It is just a day. Unless you're religious, why are we focusing on that day? If you're not religious, it's just a date in the diary. If we've got family, as in kids, because that's supposed to be family, but family could be you and a cat. It could be you and 10 dogs. A farmyard, it could just be you. You are your own family, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we get into the idea of commercialism that family is a mum, a dad, and 2.4 children. And it's waking up to a happy Christmas stocking and presents and this, that, and the other. And it's often on what we had as children, what we saw as the ideal Christmas, or what we didn't have and we think we want to create for the children we never had. But kids, as I've seen with my brother's kids, they don't necessarily want to do on Christmas Day what you think you did as a child. Come Boxing Day, okay, the sales are open. How many people now go shopping on Boxing Day for the sales? And to me, that's like the furthest from Christmas it could possibly be. But some people love it, and they see that as what they see that as part of Christmas. So we don't necessarily have to control over what our dreams would have been, even if we'd had children. And again, it's that lack of control. We don't always have control. We didn't have control over having children. We don't have control over, even if we had children, what that Christmas could have turned into. So it's allowing ourselves to release the feeling of being able to control everything. And I think the more we can let go, the more we can invite in with new traditions. We could say, okay, through the whole of December, we're going to give each other a little pressie. The first week could be a pressie that's the cheapest thing you can find under £10, it's bloody awful, and it's going to make you laugh. The next weekend could be the best alcoholic present for under £10. Or you can make different subjects, you know, it could be the best pressie for your fur kid. Or if you're on your own, it could be an indulgence. There's a candle you love the smell of, but you wouldn't buy it normally because you think it's a candle. It ain't worth that money. But you might think, you know what, it's my Christmas present, I'm having it. And the next weekend could be some music. It could be anything you want it to be. But you're creating a month of celebrations for yourself rather than a day that's compressed, those 24 hours compressed into something we don't feel we have. So we have to let go. We have to let go of that control and give ourselves the freedom to make Christmas, or the 25th of December. We don't even have to use the word Christmas. It could be a catmas. I love that word. It could be anything we want to do, but we can make it. We've got that little bit of control to say it's not about December the 25th. It could be about December. It could be about January. We could change it to Christmas, to be in the summer. We can do what we want with it because it's our day and that's the control we have. So I think control coming up with both Andy and Sarah in the conversations, it's a really interesting word. To take control of our control. To know we don't have it. You know, with commercialism, we can't stop commercialism. We can't hide from it. If we turn off social media, if we turn off the TV, we don't look at magazines, we're going to go out in the street when we can, doing our healthy walks. And we're still going to come across adverts in bus shelters or on somewhere else that are talking about the traditional Christmas family. So we can't control what we can necessarily see, but we can control what we do with it. Not how we react to it, because I said emotions, we don't always have control of, and that's good because we need to let them out. But it's figuring out what we can do. So come Christmas, we'll be doing whatever we're doing, me and my hubby. We don't know where we'll be at any given moment during the 24 hours of the 25th of December or preceding or the ones afterwards. We don't have that control. It doesn't matter, because I might just find, well, I might treat myself to a box of my favourite chocolates and I've got no control how I eat them. They might just be divulged within an hour, or they might last for a few days. But I've the choice of how I control my eating. I've got the choice of if I open them up that day, or just think, actually, I don't fancy that. I'm going to have the cold takeaway from last night. But it's making new ideas and suggestions for how we perhaps perceive Christmas. Because at the end of the day, Christmas is there for religion. How many people actually do? What percentage? I'd love to know what percentage of people go to church and actually use Christmas for what it was created for. It is created for religion. It's now there because of commercialism. And that's sometimes what we've got to do, is step out of that box and see who has taken control of that day. It's the people with the big, the fat cats, the ones who want to line their pockets. That is a lot about what Christmas can be, because we can love our family and our friends every day of the year. It doesn't have to be about one day of the year, and it should never be about one day of the year. We put so much emphasis on, if this day isn't perfect, the whole of the year is ruined, and we've got a plan for next year, because next year needs to be perfect on the 25th because this one was shit. But we don't have to do that. We have the control to say, the choice to take control, to leave control, accept control. So for me, Christmas is about just letting it happen, hopefully getting a shopping order in from one of the shops and they're not booked up, hopefully getting a few of my drinks and my chocolates through that I enjoy. And while he sits there and can't have a drink, I might have a tipple, but I might not. It's depending what I fancy. It's what I want to do. It's embracing what makes me happy on that day, because it is just the day, and the day after it's gone. And like I said, a lot of people will be running around the shops buying stuff for themselves because commercialism has taken over.
Oh, it has, hasn't it? It really has. I've noticed that. One of the things that I was going, I try to do anyway, but I'm really, really, really doing this year, is just going independent for everything. So I normally go in, I go local for all of our food anyway, as much as I can, and try and get stuff from the veg box. So I'll carry on doing that. But presents will be from small businesses, because that's one thing that we can all do so well, and it makes a difference. It just makes a difference to anyone who's struggling at the moment, because goodness knows there's so much going on in terms of people being furloughed, in lack of funding. And there's a small thread that started on the Walking Forward Inspiration Network on Facebook, and I think there's probably others in other groups as well, just listing businesses within our community where we can buy stuff from. But just in general, get over onto Twitter if you're on it, and have a look at small businesses, at some of the indie campaigns. Just a card is a good hashtag to look at on Twitter, because that tends to be all the craft businesses, and there's craft hours as well. And just look up and support an indie, get some really good Christmas cards in, and avoid that commercialism if you feel that's a new tradition that you want to create, because that certainly will make an impact to an awful lot of people in outside of our community and within it as well, if you can find those businesses. And that's our new tradition, which replaces the tradition we normally have of walking on the beach with the dog, which we won't do until the new year, because we're going away in New Year rather than for Christmas. We're testing it out. We're trying something different this year and just seeing how it goes. And perhaps our new tradition is staying at home, whereas previously I've gone away. So being here actually would be quite nice. Be nicer if I managed to decorate my hall then, because I need to do some decorating, and I'm just not looking forward to doing it. Don't want to do it. I keep putting it off, but that's my goal. Just so I've done it, I've got a deadline and I can get it finished. But I think the other thing that you also spoke about as well, both you, Sarah, and you, Steph, about setting boundaries. And one thing I think that we could do as well is social media breaks, perhaps, as well. I mean, we talk about not wanting to go online and go on Zoom and stuff, and if we're feeling like there's a challenge perhaps with meeting online, perhaps we've got some people in our listeners who are being encouraged to go to Christmas catch-ups online. The internet isn't always reliable, is all I'm going to say. That's, and you can legitimately say you're taking a break. It's time for you and your immediate family, the family that you have, time for you if you are enjoying the day or finding some peace in your own space as well. That's okay too. You don't have to go to Zoom catch-ups or be on WhatsApp all the time. You can delete those. You can delete the app if you need to. You know, I'm certainly going to be taking a break over the Christmas time as well. So yeah, there's something else to bear in mind.
As you say, you're taking control, and that's what it can be about.
Yeah.
It can be the small things. What removing one app can make such a difference.
It can, yeah. And I think if you go into different groups as well, you can find advice on that. I know that, you know, the groups that you look after, Steph, and many others out there have advice. You know, you can just drop in and go, look, actually, I'm in a sticky situation. I just need some words. There'll be someone there who's got some wise words for you. Or you can just simply say, look, actually, no, not today. And if you feel like, you know, you're in a space where you don't want to say those sorts of things, then yeah, you know, you can pull your modem out of the wall, switch it off, you know, why not? You know, just, you know, that's okay too. You know, the great thing about our world now is actually tech can go wrong. You know, I lost broadband this week for most of one day, so that happens as well. It could happen over the festive season, you know. Encouraging bad behaviour, but still, never mind. You know, if that's how you want to take control, then that's okay too.
Well, the thing is about Christmas is you see a lot of the Christmas cards have peace and joy on them, and it's about finding out what gives you inner peace, and what gives you joy.
Yeah,
it's not about everything else. It's about, you know, if there's not a time to be selfish at Christmas, I don't know when there is. Do you know what I mean? Find what makes your heart get a little bit of happiness in there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I have friends of mine who volunteer. So there's a couple of people that were on the Walk in Our Shoes site who volunteer. They spend their day with other people volunteering in homelessness shelters, places like that, serving food, doing things. I have another friend that I've met who is childless, and she is a vet, and she's volunteering for Street Vet this year in our city here. And she's thoroughly looking forward to it because you can go out and she can do some good. So there are other ways that we can support other people who may need us, who may not be in our community, but also have a need to. So I think that's an important thing, that we, you know, alternative things, like you say, it's not all about the traditions that you had before, but perhaps about creating new ones, or just dropping them completely and just having, you know, a day of, you know, and not even celebrating if you don't need to as well. I think there's too much pressure, as you say, on 24 hours, the pressure to go to the shops and to get the right food in and things like that, which is why I don't bother. You know, it'll be what turns up in the veg box. Same as, really, you know, put a bit of holly on top, you know, or something like that. But, you know, generally speaking, it's just nice just not to have that pressure, you know. As I think back to my family and how they used to just go to great lengths. They were wonderful dinners, amazing, but God, the effort involved in feeding 30, 40 people it used to be, dogs and senile great grandparents. It was just chaos, really. And I think probably the adults probably hated it. I think they probably didn't enjoy it as much as we thought, because the pressure to just sit there and get through all of that and the washing up probably wasn't that much fun. We used to love it, you know, but then you're in that zone and that age when it was more fun. So there you are.
That's a good point, that we remember Christmas as a child. We don't necessarily remember Christmas as an adult.
Yeah.
And again, our emotions and feelings are not directed to the reality of when you get older, what changes.
There's a bit in my Christmases that I've missed, which is the part I remember being as a child, but the bit before IVF and the bit before fertility treatment, that gap in between from when I grew up and to now, I've kind of almost forgotten what those Christmases are, because I almost didn't really do anything, or I was so buried under the weight of grief that I don't remember. I could not tell you what I did, and that was even before we started going through treatment. It's just like a bit of a blank space. They were something and they didn't mean so much, and I think probably in the recovery period I felt like I had to fight to create something new, and that was really, 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 really important that I did that, and that I could post something that, honestly, truthfully speaking, that I could post something on Instagram of a dog walk on a beach, perhaps because actually I was not trying to best somebody else, but to prove that I did have a Christmas day. I think there's an element of that maybe in me. And this year I'm kind of like, oh, bollocks to that. Nah, I've virtually gone completely off Instagram at the moment because it's got too much, really, with these reels and things. It's almost got too ridiculous. So maybe there's an element of that. That's an interesting sort of bit of self-reflection there that I've suddenly come out with, but I think that's probably true. I was trying to make it a better Christmas than perhaps it was, and trying to hide from that grief. And this year I'm not doing that anymore. It's, if it's a bit rubbish, it's a bit rubbish, but actually, to be honest, I'll probably surprise myself, I think, and just get through the day as I normally do. It's been a much better year for me because of the podcast, because of seeing other people grow and having other voices out there. It's been absolutely amazing to see our community become so strong and to be so collaborative as well. The things that we're all doing together, all of our guests on here and all of the stuff that's been going on with just growth and friendship is just thrilling to see, and so absolutely rewarding as well. It's been fabulous. Sarah, you were going to say something there.
I was just reflecting on what you were saying, because it's interesting when you were talking about almost like compensating and needing to almost put it out there as that you were having or proving that you were actually able to still have a really good Christmas, in a public kind of way. And it's really interesting, that shift, isn't it, where you kind of almost move more to a place of peace. And I can relate to that. I certainly had times where I felt this pressure to be almost like the super auntie a little bit, or something, where I was almost compensating for, I know for me what was really important as part of my experience as a child was that Christmas felt quite magical, and part of my dream of motherhood was the Christmases that I knew it would be hard work, but the Christmases that I wanted to create for my own children. I just think that during the years when you're really raw is to be really in touch with where you're at, and it's actually okay to make choices around how much you want to participate. And it's, Christmas it's religious, but it's also very family focused. It's a very kids family focused event. And, if you're grieving and raw, then it's actually okay to say, hey, for this year, this is what I actually need to do, and to set boundaries with family. And, it could be different next year, to be able to try and perhaps, as much as you can, explain that to family, to say, this is what I actually need for this year, because, this is where I'm at, knowing that in future years, I may be in a different space and may be able to participate more, and to specifically say, and this is what I need from you, in terms of being able to understand that, and being able to set boundaries and be really specific about, what's reasonable in terms of demands on you this year. Because I'm really conscious that there's going to be a lot of women, or a lot of couples, for whom, the lockdown and COVID has really impacted on their journey through fertility treatments, and it's people possibly coming to the end of their journey, and it will have been really tough. And so, our hearts really go out to you, and really support you to reach out and set boundaries around what you need.
Absolutely, that's a really, really good point. I think that how we set boundaries, but I think thinking of people who are joining us in this journey as well, because it's been a really tough year. Lockdown has closed so much support, and also changed the way people are going into getting that coping, but also if they're going through treatment again, that changes that too. It's not been the same as it would normally be, and getting that comfort and solace. When we heard from a previous episode with Jodie and Julie and Joss about being single in a pandemic, and that need to just be in touch with people as well is also incredibly important at this time. I think that is really, and if you have those extra added, the whole family thing going on around you too, then that can be really hard. I know last year was a struggle because I had my brother's wedding, so it was big kind of family do, lots of children there, who some of whom I hadn't met before, most of whom I hadn't met before, because it's been tricky with my family. And I'd exhausted myself by the end of that. And then I found out just before Christmas that one of my my uncles pitied me And this word pity was it stayed with me. It's still on my mind most of the time. I think, how dare you? So it changed sort of how I was, and I think maybe that's altered perhaps how I see this time of the year, but also kind of underlined to me quite clearly that actually there is an issue over how of perception and of boundaries as well. So I think that's also really important too. Sarah Lawrence as opposed to Sarah Roberts.
Oh no, sorry, I was chuckling because we've been talking on chat, because there's always that difficulty of having more than one Sarah in the bloody room, isn't there? There's so many others. And you sort of go, Sarah, and it's like one of us go, and then the other one.
I can see you both wanted it, but I thought it was Sarah. Yes, no. I don't know. Either one of you. You were going to say something earlier on, weren't you?
No, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm on it all the time, Sarah. So, you know, it's better to have a different voice than mine effing and jeffing. So it's fine. But I guess...
So many Sarahs.
I know. But I guess for me, I think my journey has been being more responsibly selfish, which is kind of what I think everyone's kind of been saying, isn't it? What Steph was sort of saying, making your own traditions, you know, telling people where they need to get off, when they need to get off. I know last year my mum wanted to have this big family do, and it takes a lot of guts to sort of turn around and say no. But I said, actually, no, I don't. I dislike Christmas intensely. I still do. I think it's quite... I just find the whole thing completely over the top, and family orientated, family centric, and it's just, you know, if you want more triggers in a room, then just go in a Christmas, you know, go and watch Christmas on telly. It's just that the films, the adverts, everything's family, and it doesn't acknowledge that actually if you're a couple, you're a family. If you're on your own with an animal, you're a family unit. It doesn't matter, but you don't get acknowledged. But I think for me, the responsibly selfish thing, if I was going to impart any advice, would be, doesn't matter how you say no, just say no. You know, it's for me, turning around and saying no to my mum was one of the biggest steps I took, and just said, there's no way that's going to happen. And I know it upset her, but actually it would have upset me more putting myself through it. It would have been not just, you know, the day, it would have been weeks, maybe a month or so afterwards, that I still felt like shit afterwards. I've done it before, I've done it with extended family, and I've hated it. And I still reflect back on those low moments where I've had to sit in a room of people going, oh, doesn't so-and-so look like so-and-so? And he's like, you've got nothing else to say to me but comparisons with children, and doesn't so-and-so look like so-and-so? And I think that is just, if I can give you one message, is just be responsibly selfish and make it your own. Do what you want to do. If it's macaroni cheese, it's macaroni cheese. If it's getting blind drunk, it's getting blind drunk. Just do what you need to do, isn't it, really? I think. Sorry, that's me sort of synopsisizing. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's what I would suggest.
I think that's our 2021 thing. You know, we're doing You're Not Alone. I think we now have be responsibly selfish, because it just is. I just love that. That is absolutely it. Responsibly selfish, because totally. Yeah. Well done, Sarah. I love that.
I stole it, if I'm honest.
No. You claimed it now. You might have stolen it, but we've claimed it. Yeah,
okay.
we're having
all
that. Right, yeah. In fact, I think we should just call this episode, I think I'm able to rename it Responsibly Selfish. We can't, because we've already put it out there, but still, nevertheless, maybe that's an episode for next year on boundaries and being responsibly selfish, because I think it's something we can all benefit from, and definitely we could all do with a reminder of as well. So, are we coming to a natural conclusion? I think maybe we are.
I think so. So
yeah.
It'd probably be good to hear. Does anyone, any of our guests, have anything they'd like to, tell the community? Have you got something going on? Is there anyone you'd like to thank, particularly call out? The floor is yours.
Go for it, guys. I'm going to go on silent. Bye.
Who's first? Go on.
I'll jump in. Go on then. I'll jump in. No, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone. Not one particular individual, but to everyone in the community. Because we've all got a voice and we use it sometimes silently, but we're using it, and that is amazing. So all I say is, let's hope this time next year you're in a better place than you were today, and you can reflect backwards and see how you've moved on.
That's lovely, Steph. Thank you.
That's beautiful. That's really lovely. And if you're really struggling this Christmas, we would like to offer, we're offering complimentary 20-minute Zoom sessions for women who really are struggling. And you can just visit our website and we'll book something in before Christmas or afterwards. Yeah, it's a really, can be a really tough time. Yeah, and you don't have to do it alone. Yeah, that we're around. Yeah.
What's your website, Sarah? Can you just let people know what that is?
It's www.theemptycradle.com.
Lovely. Thank you so much. That's going to be such
Really
a valuable
stuffed
service.
out, didn't
I
I?
no, don't worry. I never remember ours. I forget that we have a the on the full stop. I'm just like thefullstoppodcast.com. And then there's 2 L's in it, which always confounds me anyway. So yeah, I know. It's going to be such a valuable service for people, Sarah. Thank you so much
I'm
for
just
all
so
of
bad
your
at
support. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. It's a pleasure. I have to say, I've never met, there's not a woman I've worked with who I haven't just deeply admired and just found really fascinating. So there's a lot of us out there who have amazing stories to tell. So yeah, I guess my one tip for everyone this year is to just be deeply kind and gentle and compassionate with yourself. It's a tough road to walk, and you know, we're the one person that will be there with us 24/7, and to really look after ourselves. That's really important. And to be just really gentle and kind in that, and really compassionate. We don't have to be harsh. We can just be really gentle and flow with it. Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah, I sort of second Steph in the sense of just saying thanks to everyone, because I'm still catching up on World Childhood Week, but I was blown away by the sheer amount of stuff that was there and the different names and voices, and that was just brilliant. And it's a bit like the clan. It started off with 5 of us, and we're approaching 50 now, and that's really quite something. And it can be quiet, but that's okay, because it's about beginning. And that's the thing, I think, echoing what other people said today, is do what you need to do, not just at sort of Christmas time, but whenever, because that's the thing I didn't give myself permission to, and that cost me in the long term in terms of energy, but also in terms of missing out maybe on living sooner again. So in that sense, yeah, do what you need to do, but we're here for you as well. So like, as a community, I know I wouldn't be in this place without you guys. So there's thank you to the community, but also in terms of offerings, I feel like there is something around the clan from them to offer around Christmas. Be it isn't a pop in on the day as a chat, need to think about this, or whenever, and maybe just get that message out that there is someone to talk to. And I think with the clan, you notice that if someone posts something, people do reply. And so, yeah, just be in touch and just be you. I think that's the most important thing, and that's what the communities teach me around childhood. Just individually, I think and I think I can say this for a lot of people, you feel like you failed, you've got it wrong, you've missed out. But all the people I've met, you're amazing. It's just great. And I know without Michael and Robin that they're both sort of involved me, and that's pushed me on, and that's been really good. And I think that's what I'd like to build on, really, to sort of involve others and just help our community, because our voice does need to be heard, and hopefully be one day where for any minority there's no battle, it's just we're all the same. That'd be beautiful. So, yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Sarah Lawrence, you had your hand up.
Oh, no, sorry, I had my fingers crossed.
Oh, I thought you wanted the floor.
Can I just ask, Andy, did you just have a cat's butt walk across the screen?
Not just then, but she has been walking around. So
She just seemed to walk across, and we saw a tail.
yeah, there's been tails. So one thing of lockdown is we've both been from
That's
at
very
home.
cute.
So our cats have loved it, especially because my wife was in a school, and so she wasn't in very much. Cat cuddles are on tap. Since she's gone to teaching online, one of our cats, Charlie, who's also known as Chief because he's just the boss, she's just disturbed nearly every meeting I've had. If I've got a Zoom call on or a Teams thing, even interviews with people, she's just come along. Because she's like, it's about mid-morning, I want my second breakfast and I want cuddles. So yeah, the cats have loved lockdown. I wouldn't be surprised if cats are behind COVID.
I was thinking that about dogs as well. It's probably some sort of takeover. If there's any kind of it's like a thing by cats and dogs.
I'll never be alone again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. My neighbour came past the other day, and we were walking just down to the post box in our street, and my neighbour caught us up and was just like, "Oh, is the dog enjoying it?" Yeah. She's just thoroughly enjoying lockdown. Yeah, and has done since March, because I've barely left the house. They are. That's the conspiracy theory. We've uncovered it right here. Yes. It's there's no. I was going to say no. We're getting political, because I was going to say about the dogs and the cats of Downing Street, but let's not go there.
Yeah, can we just vote for Larry next time?
Yeah, I think you do a sterling job. Even as a dog, I am a former cat owner. The late and feral and quite grumpy and very bitey Clory Shadow was our cat before we had the dog, who is complete opposite and just literally is just so affectionate and lovely. But yeah, Shadow. Yeah, so I will vote cat. I can vote cat. That's fine. Yeah, I'm allowed to. Yeah.
Don't let Molly hear you say that.
She's snoring downstairs.
Judas.
Dead. Yeah. Yeah, there would be, actually. If I voted squirrel, I'd definitely get told off for that one. Yeah, squirrels are, so yeah. I don't know, squirrels or cats, probably both, yeah. Right. I think we can let you go, guys, now, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
It was lovely to be with you all.
Yeah, thanks for
coming
along.
It really was.
That was really nice. It wasn't what I expected. I thought I'd have like a 2-minute... Here's my Christmas message. I'm gone. That was really fun. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks so glad for such a good chat. Yeah.
And thank you for everything that you've shared, because it really, I've learned so much actually just in our podcast. I always learn from our podcast and our guests. Every time we do them, we have a learning experience ourselves as presenters, and certainly that's true today from all three of you. Just thank you so very much. It's been so lovely to have chatted to you, Sarah. Anyway, have a lovely rest of your days, evenings, and we will catch up with you next year. Keep in touch.
Thank you.
Take care.
Nice to meet you.
Really good
Steph.
Nice to meet you, Andy. See you, Steph. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Nice to meet both of you, all three of you.
Yay! And you too, Sarah.
You too,
have a lovely time. Christmas.
Finally. See ya. Bye.
Great, see you.
Bye.
Bye.
So we just wanted to say a huge, massive thank you to everyone that's appeared on the show this year. We're going to read them out now. So big thank you to Bibi Lynch, Susan Muir, Ali Anderson, Sevilla Morgan, Andy Harrod, Ken Fenton, Kevin Roberts and Dr. Robin Hadley.
Not to forget my mucker, Rod Silvers, and the gracious Jodie Day, Julian Joss from Gateway Women, Rosalind Bubb, Yvonne John, Hanifa Mohammed, and Dr. Christy Cooper. Thank you so much.
Somehow I have to preface all of my guests that I'm going to read out with something equally witty, and I can't think of anything. So, massive and huge thank yous to Bindi Shah, Kirsty Woodhead, Victoria Firth, Meryl Whale, Helen Siegel, Stephanie Phillips, and Sarah Roberts. And most of all, a huge and massive, ginormous thank you to everyone that's listened to the podcast during 2020 for all your kindness, your love, your messages of support, your reviews, and simply being there, because it means the absolute world to all of us. Thank you so very, very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And we're back in 2021. We're not going. That wasn't like the final shout. We're not all just going to go. We're here in 2021. And we would love to hear from you if you've got any ideas for episodes, if you want to be a guest, if you're doing something completely new and it is amazing that you are, then please get in touch, because we welcome everybody on the podcast. We love to hear from you, and so do all of our listeners too. So do please get in touch. You can find us on social media, and you can find all of the details of how to contact us and our email address on our website, www.thefullstoppod.com. And you can just get in touch. Say hi. We love to hear from you. Take care.
I was going to say, I don't like champagne, but if there's nothing else around, I will drink it.
Oh, you see, you're better than me. You just got a kudos point in Sarah's book, but not for me. I'm disappointed in you. I won't drink it. I said to Sarah, this is when we had some, was it some champagne that I found in the shed, and I can't remember why we decided that we would have champagne, my husband and I, but we did. And I mentioned this to Sarah and to Michael, and then probably said it's like something I'd clean my toilet with, and I've never yet been forgiven. And it was like a proper nice bottle, apparently, like Moet or something really important. I mean, I don't know. Whatever it was. Andy, the important thing is that on Twitter I have told you what that brownie pints is. So that is important moment of the podcast today, is that Andy, and it's veggie, so it's fine for veggies like you and I. So you can have that.
It's on Twitter, is it? Because
I was like, Twitter.
I've made a note of it.
I was going to say, I'd probably ended up tweeting you, asking you about what it was.
Yeah, no, I'm on it. Don't worry, I'm there. It's just important, share the beer love. Yeah, Brew York, and it's a fantastic brewery. I've been around the brewery. It's amazing.